Hello friend, I am Mohammad Tariq, Faculty History at Vajiram and Ravi. We are going to discuss today what are the advantages of history and culture in your general studies paper. If you're preparing for 2026 or 2027 or even beyond, this talk would help you to understand the importance of history and culture paper at various stages of your preparation. The first stage, as you know, is prelims. So around 20 to 22 questions is asked out of 100 from history and culture. Of course, history is ever expanding subject. So a lot of questions they are asking from post-independent India history, and already we are teaching history till 1990s, that is till the period of economic liberalization. So our history starts from stone ages till late 1990s, or you can say whole of 20th century. And keeping in mind that part, I told 20 to 22 question. That means that 1/5 part of your GS is coming from history. You all know that 5 to 6 lakh students appear actually in UPSC. Over 10 lakh apply. Now only 12 to 13,000 would be called for writing main exam depending upon seats. This prelims is now very dicey because of the types of questions they are asking. They are clubbing two things together in the same question. First, they are asking factual question along with conceptual question. And unless you are good at both, you would struggle. In our classes, we will clarify both. The facts through our lectures, through our handouts, through our test series, and the concepts through our talk, through our lectures, and through question answer sessions. Once concepts are clear, facts becomes easier to remember. If your concepts are weak, you would always struggle to recall your fact. That is the first thing keep in your mind. The second thing you should know that nowadays they're not asking question only from history in history segment. They're clubbing history with geography, history with eco, history with philosophy, history with language, history with science and technology. The same is true with geography also, that in the geography segment, they would club geography with economy, economy with law, law with science, all with current. So this is called interdisciplinary approaches. Already in good universities, they have interdiscipline subject. In Indian education system, you were told to join science, arts, commerce, humanities, etc. And our colleges also gave degree accordingly. But in the good universities in US to Europe, already they had started interdisciplinary much earlier. In India, it is relatively new. But UPSC had already started this asking questions from 2013 onwards. In the last 5-7 years, the presentation of that segment has actually increased and increasing. So what is the solution which we are offering to the students? The solution is that in the classes, we will not only clarify your facts and concept, but also develop how to study interdisciplinary approaches. For instance, the question which was asked, Ajanta and Ellora are situated on which of the following hills? Now, the hills and rivers generally you read in geography, and Ajanta and Ellora you read in history. But now in our classes itself, our history faculty, geography faculty are linking, so you can get a lot of help from our classes. The second important part of just general studies is main. And in this main part, we are going to help through our subject, as you know, not only in paper 1, but paper 2 and paper 4. In each of these segments, history and culture would help you immensely. In paper 1, there would be direct questions from ancient, medieval, modern, and world history. But in paper 1, like social issues, the issues like women, like tribal, like Dalit, like various movement of the laborers in 19th and 20th century is actually part of history, and then it is also part of sociology. So A, the interdisciplinary approach, B, the very direct topic which is actually part of history, also part of sociology in various universities. So that would help you in cracking many questions of paper 1. In paper 2, you would get a lot of questions from Constitution and its origin. During our freedom struggle movement, you would learn that those ideals on the basis of which our preamble and fundamental rights and directive principle of state policy were made, those ideals were actually discussed during freedom struggle, particularly in 3 decades, that is 1920s, 1930s and 1940s. So what they were discussing, that we will get not only freedom from British, but we would also get equality among Indians. We will also get fraternity. We will also get justice. Now, as you know, this is all found in our preamble, but the ideas of this were already discussed by our revolutionaries, whether those revolutionaries were Gandhian, whether they were socialist, whether they were revolutionaries. They all actually love these ideas. And you would find that in the making of Indian Constitution, that is 46 to 49 Constituent Assembly, people who were Gandhian, who were socialist, who were revolutionary, they all were in Constituent Assembly. And that's the reason why we got one of the best constitution in the world, because they believed in these ideals. So a student who studied history and culture can easily grasp the preamble, the fundamental rights, the directive principle of state policy. And once you understand these 3, the rest is cakewalk. The rest is just, a body. But the soul of constitution actually lies here. Another advantage of reading history and culture in general studies is that in paper 2, you would get a lot of issues which is confronting India and China, India and Pakistan, India and Bangladesh. But the root lies in history, somewhere in 19th century or mostly in early part of 20th century. So all the border disputes, all the trade wars, all the cultural disputes, all the ethnic disputes, as well as some religious conflict which you see in subcontinent, more often has its root in 19th century and early 20th century. So you would find that 20th century post-independent is an extension of first half of 20th century, and first half of 20th century is an extension of second half of 19th century. And that linkage would help you to understand that what moves history, which I call movers and shakers of history. I also use a term Zama and Makan, that in which time and in which space, in which place things happen, because nothing moves in a vacuum. So the interlinkages would be from history, and most of the current topic, whether it is Russia versus America, China versus America, India versus America, this all you would heard in history classes more, and that would help you in paper 2. In your paper 4 of your general studies, you would get some philosophers like Buddha, like Vardhaman Mahavir, some thinkers like Vivekanand, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Rabindranath Tagore, B.R. Ambedkar. Each one are directly part of history syllabus. And once you read that from history classes, you can easily handle 30 to 40% of your paper 4. And not only that, even the case study becomes easier because you have some basic grounding of some ideologies, of some philosophical thought, and you would know what is right and wrong at a particular juncture. In administration, it is very important because often the administrators and a policeman could be in a dilemma. At that dilemmic situation, your firm belief in a particular ideology and thought would navigate you in a right direction. And that is what history and culture subject would help you immensely in taking decision. Don't forget, in administration, taking decision, right decision at right moment is very crucial to make a person a very successful bureaucrat. And UPSC is not only looking, but literally hunting such candidate. And the moment they see that element in you, whether in your copies or in your interview, in your persona, they would welcome and give very good marks. So history and culture would help a lot in improving your marks, which automatically means improving your rank and your desired service, that is IAS, IFS and IPS, can be in your range. As I taught, luckily, thousands and thousands of students, more than 1500 students are already who studied from me, and of course in Vajiram, much more than me, and my faculty friends here who each one individually had a lot of students placed in civil services. Their experience would help you what exactly UPSC is looking for and where you lack, and how we can help you to make sure that you are a successful candidate in 2026 or 2027. Now, one important area which you have to do very well is essay. Once again, our general studies of Vajiram, each teachers would help. Our history and culture faculty would also help. At least 2 questions out of 8 you can get directly coming from history, some of the debates of history, some of the thinkers from history. And once you understood that in classroom or with our material, you can easily attempt 1 question out of the 2 essay. And to get 130, 125 in essay is not a big deal. Many of our candidates got 130, 40, even 160 plus. That is because they just followed what we taught. And of course, they practice with the writing. And here we will have series of tests. So that would improve your essay performance. In personality, we will have mock interviews. We are already having. Now, in personality, your thinking, your understanding of various issues of India and world is going to be an important part. Now, what we here are doing, that through various ideas, personas, personalities of past, we will tell this is what you should have as part of your thinking, so that when you are asked, you do not take too much time to tell whether this path is right or that path is right. And that is what the advantage of history and culture in personality test. Now, one example I wanted to give through history and culture subject, that how the question sometimes they can ask to compare some of the greats of modern history. They have already asked Gandhi and Ambedkar in the past, Gandhi and Tagore in the past, Vivekanand, and who knows, Gandhi and Nehru could be the next. Now, suppose a question is asked Gandhi and Ambedkar. On what basis they had differences? Even today, if you look at, people are divided. There are some big fans of Mahatma Gandhi in India, big fans of B.R. Ambedkar in politics. Parliament in India sometimes is halted because of the debate. A good student of IAS would understand that the first line of differences they had, that how they handled untouchability. Of course, both wanted to eradicate, but their approaches were different. That was also a question, like caste. In case of Gandhi, he was not totally opposed to caste system. Gandhi believed that there is a social order. He of course wanted to end discrimination and untouchability, but he didn't want to remove caste order. Of course, there is some criticism on that also. But the defenders of Gandhi, including some of the nationalist historians, argue that Gandhi did not want to bring the society at a place and a position of conflict like Russians, like Chinese, like many other countries in the past did. And he wanted some sort of compromise. So what compromises he was looking? That the caste, which is called generally upper caste, should compromise and the Dalit and the others should also accept some realities, that there are certain limitations. But Gandhi would say in a very subtle way, and some of these things he would not even openly say. This is where Ambedkar role comes. Now, he would strongly criticize caste, and he even talked about caste annihilation. Now, we all know the meaning of this annihilation. It's almost a complete destruction without traces. That shows his hatred with the caste, and he blamed this for untouchability. Gandhi's belief that untouchability somehow entered into the Hindu society, which must be removed, but there is no big problem in caste per se, whereas Ambedkar believed that without removal of caste, you cannot think about removal of untouchability or discrimination, and that is where they have a fundamental differences on this issue. Another issue on which they had differences was Hinduism. Gandhi was a believer of Hinduism. He practiced Hinduism, proudly Vaishnavite form of Hinduism. As you know, that the last sentence which Gandhi said before his death was, "Hey Ram." Ambedkar, on the other hand, was a strong critique of Hinduism, and he blamed Hinduism for caste and caste for untouchability. And you must have heard the famous saying that Ambedkar said, "Though I was born as a Hindu, but I would not die as a Hindu." And finally, in 1956, 4 months before his death, he converted to Buddhism, which is called Neo-Buddhism. Of course, there is some interesting story about it, that initially he wanted to convert to Islam and then Christianity, but he wanted some rational religion without, superstitious beliefs. And then he saw Buddhism is more rational, more talks about mind power rather than about some supernatural power, and that attracted him towards Buddhism. And one more reason is that Buddhism did not actually practice those caste inequality in the ancient period itself, and that's how he was attracted towards that. So once you understand the fundamental difference between Gandhi and Ambedkar theory, you can easily understand that why they differed. In the end, you also have to make your own opinion. So in the classes, we would also help that you should think. We will not tell what we believe, what Bipan Chandra or Irfan Habib or Romila Thapar or Sumit Sarkar believe. Of course, you have to read them also. But in the end, your own belief is very important, because when you write conclusion, when you go in interview and say your point of view, that would help you to get better marks rather than someone else's ideas. So you would become very objective person in history classes, I'm sure, and you would be enlightened also. Generally in India, people are very emotional about either Gandhi or B.R. Ambedkar, but you are going to be a bureaucrat, and a bureaucrat has to be more rational and more objective. Of course, emotional is nothing wrong, but in administration, in public service, you have to learn how to control your emotions and your personal likes and dislikes, and how to be as much as objective as possible. History would help you in becoming more and more objective, more and more rational, and that is what the subject like this, the topics like this would help you to enlighten you more. And once you're enlightened, then this exam is actually in your control. Don't forget that there are certain exams in India which test your knowledge only. There are certain exams which test your IQ mainly, or your smartness or your quickness. UPSC exam in the main and interview is all about your intellectual depth, about analyzing the available materials, available ideologies, available thinkers, and then making your opinion without being prejudices. And that is what the topic like Gandhi and Ambedkar, Gandhi and Nehru would help. And we believe generally that it's not like all the ideas of Gandhi were correct, or all the ideas of B.R. Ambedkar were correct or incorrect. There are certain ideas of Gandhi which had been questioned at that time also. So a question which was asked, very interesting, in your GS, and the question was Gandhi's relevance in 21st century. In this question, the examiner is testing your understanding of two things. One, how much you know Gandhi, and two, how much you know issues of 21st century. It could be environmental issues, it could be issues of violence, it could be issues of consumerism, it could be issues of hatred and love. Now, in each cases, Gandhi's relevance or not relevance is purely up to you. For instance, use of Swadeshi product, Gandhi advocated. But in this age of globalization, when you are using iPhone and Adidas and pizzas and burgers and medicines from America and various other countries, how much this idea of Swadeshi is relevant when you are a member of WTO also? That is very interesting question. But some of the ideas of Gandhi, for instance, non-violence, for instance, truth, for instance, compassion, for instance, sympathy and empathy, that of course would remain universally correct, whether in 19th century, 20th century, our century or next century. So you can smartly choose some of the thoughts of Gandhi which would remain relevant throughout the ages, and some of the thoughts of Gandhi, like I told you, Swadeshi, one of his thought was brahmacharya, often questioned by many. Some of the thought like control of taste, often questioned by many. You can question in a very delicate manner, in a very literary manner, without, of course, hurting anyone's sentiments. That is what the art we will develop definitely in our classes. So welcome you all at Vajiram for General Studies batches in 2026 and for 2026 and 2027 examination. And I'm sure that our faculty members would enlighten you. Thank you.